What I'm learning is the more I tap into that, it allows me to be a better what.
That's so good.
So the more I become the who I want to be, it allows me to be a better husband. It allows me to be a better father, a better employee, employer. It allows me to be a better human being.
Yeah.
Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about marriage matters because
marriage matters.
You got darn right it does. So if you're watching or listening for the very first time, my name is Glenn Coleman, and this sexy piece of chocolate sitting next to me.
Hi guys, I'm Tanya Coleman.
That's what she is.
Thank you for that.
Who else are you? Who else?
Who else am I? What do you mean?
Yeah, she's my wife. That's what I wanted to.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm her husband. So,
sorry.
No, you're good, man. You didn't catch the cues, but that's all right. That happens sometimes in life. Sometimes in life, we miss the cues.
We miss the cues.
But you know what?
What?
It's all right. You can go back and pick it up.
Good.
Right?
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, what's next?
So, we're going to talk about a tip, trick, and a tool.
Okay. We like to give you tips, tricks, and tools because, you know, it's just not a podcast. We want to give you some things that you can implement.
Yes.
Because that's how your life changes.
That's when you learn, how your life changes.
That's how growth happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
You analyze, you learn, you implement, you grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process of growth.
Yep.
I like that. Learn, analyze, implement, grow.
L-A-I-G.
What does that spell?
L-A-I-G.
Lag.
We'll talk about
anyway, tips, tricks, tricks, and tools. Go ahead.
Caught up.
Take it away.
Okay, so this week, the tip, trick, and tool that we are offering to you guys is this. It is simple. If you do not have a journal, a personal journal, go and pick yourself up a personal journal. You can find some very nice ones everywhere. Walmart, Office Depot. I love the ones in Marshalls and Home Goods and all that good stuff. So get yourself a journal.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
So I know we're talking about journals, but I want to let you guys know that if you haven't seen it already, that Tanya Coleman has a planner coming out that I think has some journaling capabilities built into it. So be on the lookout for that. What's the name of it?
It is.
I don't want to say it wrong. You don't even know. But anyway.
No. I wasn't expecting you to bring that up. Okay. So you took me completely off my thought.
We'll let the people, we'll just let you know that this journal is coming out. So be on the lookout for it.
It is called My Life by Design Planner.
Okay. So the planner is coming. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You see how he does me? Just like throws me way off. Yes. So yes, the My Life by Design Planner is coming, and we will give you more information when we are ready to pre-sell that baby. But this week, the tip, trick, and tool is to do that, is to journal. If you don't have a journal, get yourself a journal. And here's why. So Glenn talked about the growth and the changing and the implementation. And, you know, guys, we are big on self-assessment and evaluating myself. And so journaling is one of those tools where you can process your thoughts, your feelings, really get really real and really deep with yourself, and it be a safe space where you're not having to share that with someone else if you don't feel safe enough to share it yet, or if you're still processing it. But I have, as an additional tool, I'm going to offer you guys some journaling prompts. This week, we will put those, I'm giving Glenn more work to do. We will put those in the show notes. And when we post the show on social media, we will put the journaling prompt in the comments or somewhere in there so you guys will have them. So here are the journaling.
Can you explain what journaling prompts are?
Yes.
Because people may not
know
what they sounds like it's self-explanatory, but just
okay. So if you're not sure what a journaling prompt is, it's simply a question, a thought, a phrase, a sentence, a word that sparks you to thinking, and you are to write or to journal from that place in your journal. Mm-hmm. And I say, when you journal, don't edit your thoughts, just write, just let your pen or your pencil flow without editing, because then you're going to get something more authentic. And when you go back and read it, no one else may be able to understand or know clearly where you're coming from, but you will know. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really a great time. I often like to write my prayers, and that's one of the ways that I connect with God. I, pray them out loud, pray them inwardly, and I like to write them. But here are the journaling prompts for you guys this week to get you started, or whenever you see this to get you started. The first prompt, and all of mine are questions. Would I want to be married to me? So that means that I have to self-reflect and think about who I am as a person. Look, y'all, don't just look at all the wonderful things that you do. Look at yourself holistically, mm-hmm. right? Would I want to be married to me? Second question, in what areas do I need to grow emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually? Mm-hmm. Those are the three main areas that will push growth in all the other areas of our lives. In what areas do I need to grow emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually? Okay. And the third question, how would growth benefit my relationship with the people closest to me? How would growth benefit my relationships with the people closest to me? So that means my spouse or partner, my children, my close family and friends. How would my personal growth and development benefit those relationships? So that is this week's tip, trick, or tool. Get yourself a journal. If you don't have one, we just gave you a few questions, thought-provoking questions for you to ask yourself and to write about in your journal. So mm-hmm. I would love to hear back from you guys that actually participate, how this went for you.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sounds good. So I guess we'll get into this week's topic, which is...
It is, what do you want to be? Doesn't that sound like such an elementary question?
Well, here's what I've learned in life. And this may be, again, I may be taking notes, but here's what I learned in life. Is that changes, because when the more I become, mm-hmm. the more I learn, and the more my perspective changes. So, at the core, I want to be.
No, don't answer yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're moving too fast, bro.
My bad. I'm gonna be quiet.
Too fast, bro.
But yes, a lot of people think that's an elementary question, yes. But I think for me, it has become a question I have to ask myself daily.
Yes. And so I say that, because we ask little kids, what mm-hmm. do you want to be when you grow up? We ask teenagers, well, what do you want to do with your life? Or, these are questions that we ask to these people who are still figuring out who they are, right?
Absolutely.
And we expect, I don't know, we're looking for a great response, and whatever great is to you. And sometimes they feel the pressure to answer this question mm-hmm. that they may not really know the answer to, mm-hmm. right? As adults, though, are we still asking that question? Because very few of us actually really know the answer to the question when we're asked at a very young age. There's a small percentage of people that really, really know what they want to do with their lives and actually follow through with that. And mm-hmm. and I would say that's culturally, because some cultures is like, this is what you're going to do. This mm-hmm. is what you're going to be. And that's it.
You're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or what's the other one?
Doctor, lawyer, or engineer. So in certain cultures and communities, that is your three options, and anything else is out of the question, But seriously though, so when thinking about who you want to be, I think we have to consider that who we want to be in this relationship mm-hmm. with our spouse, mm-hmm. right? Who I want to be in relationship with myself, and who do I want to be, you know, who do I want to show up as in the world, right? So this came to me as I was reading. I was reading an article. Go ahead. You have something to jump in?
And I think that's a great question, because a lot of times when you do ask people that question, who do you want to be? They don't know. But I think the next best question is, who don't you want to be? Because I know I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, like as far as in relationships, I know I've talked to guys, they said, I know I don't want to be like my dad. Right. My dad wasn't in my life. He wasn't a great father. He wasn't a great husband. So I know I don't want to be that. So correct. I think that can help you identify who you want to be. Because like in those aspects, and I'm not, because I mean, you know, I'll talk about my dad all the time. I had a great dad. He was a great father. And I think for the most part, he was a great husband. I think, you know, he and my mom, they had some things that they just didn't work out. But I think overall, he was a great husband, I'll say he was a great provider. But I think for some of these other people, when they identify, I know I don't want to be that, then it forces them to say, okay, well, who do I want to be? And find maybe examples of that. Right. So that you can have a image or a vision of who you want to be. So if you don't know who you want to be, I think a good place to start is, I know I don't want to be that.
I think that's a great way, a great place to start is thinking about who you don't want to be, because it's easier for us oftentimes when you ask people what they want. So when we're working with a couple and we'll ask, you know, one of the spouses, so what do you want? And they will readily say, well, I don't want A, B, C, and D, but it's very difficult for them to communicate what it is actually that they want specifically, you know? So I think that's a great point. It's a really, really good point. So when doing some reading, I was reading an article in Oprah Daily. And so Auntie O, that's what I call her, is in my mind. The title of the article was, "Are You the Person You Want to Be?" And so there was a video and she kind of shared a story, and I'll just kind of bring that to the table as we kind of dive deep into our conversation. So she said, years ago, Stedman and I had a disagreement. We don't disagree about a lot, but this was something big. I went into his office and said, I don't like this. I'm really disappointed. And he said, well, this isn't the man I want to be. So you don't have to worry about that ever happening again.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And so she said, you know, that really stuck with her, and he implemented the changes to change whatever it was that he needed to change. But to say that I recognize that whatever this behavior was, or this action, this whatever I said, whatever it was, that I don't want to be that man.
That's huge. I don't know if many people could do that, because her walking into the office saying that could be taken as very accusatory. And so that but kudos to you, Stedman, for
And so I, as I read and I, you know, continued on, and she, of course, brought out some thought-provoking things. But as I just really contemplated on that and thought about that, I was like, you know, to say that I erred, that I did something wrong, that I made a mistake, to own that and say that I know that wasn't right and that's not the person that I want to be, is what you said. Like, that's huge. And that takes a grown person. That takes a really adult, mature, like emotionally, intellectually, spiritually connected person to recognize that, to own it to their partner who's saying to them that I don't like this, I'm disappointed in this behavior, or in you for the behavior, however it went, but to own it and not to come back with an excuse, not to get offended or defensive, but to own it and say, you know what, that's not the person that I want to be. I'm like, I don't know if at every moment I would respond that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also takes courage.
It does.
Because I think sometimes, or more often than not, I think a lot of times when we do things or say things, we have that reflective moment, not in the moment, but maybe like, because I know there's been so many times where I've said or done things to you or even to the girls, and after I do, it may be that night, it was like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Correct.
You know, I had that moment. But I think the part of that growth process is owning up to it, not just to myself, but to the people that I offended or hurt. Yeah, so I think that's why it takes courage, because it's not only you admitting that to yourself, but it's putting yourself on display for your partner or your family to say, I realize that, and that's not the man I want to be, or that's not the woman I want to be. And you don't have to, and basically what he was doing in that moment is he was making himself accountable to her. Right. And this is not the man that I want to be. So he didn't say this, but to me, the undertone or the thing that wasn't said was, if you see me, I'm saying I'm not going to do this again. So if I'm giving you that promise, then that gives you the right to say, you're doing that thing again. Right, right. And it's for me not to say, oh, well, I'm, whatever. It's just own up to it again. Right. And I'll just throw this other side in there. It's not for you to use that as a weapon. Correct. It's not for her to use that as a weapon against him. But it's I've just given you permission to partner with me in my personal growth. Right, to be my mirror sometimes. Yeah. It's kind of like when the kids were younger and, the cell phone thing became big in the car, and I would give them permission to tell me or, call me out if I'm doing something on my phone while I'm behind the wheel. So it's okay for you to get my attention that this thing is happening because it's putting us in danger. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm going to now let you answer the question that you started to answer earlier when I told you to hold on. Okay. When you're now putting that in this context, who do you want to be? Well, and again, I think that question, because I'll say this, the question used to be, what do I want? Right. What do you want to be? And I think for me, that's the change that I've made. It's from what to who. Because what I'm learning is the what can change based on a lot of things. And I've gone through a lot of... Oh, that's so good. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. I've gone through a lot of seasons in my life where I was one thing and now I'm this and now I'm this and now I'm this. So those things change, but I'm learning the who that I want to be. And the who that I want to be is I want to be a loved, whole child of God. That's the who. And that's the who that I am becoming. And I think that's the who that we're all called to become in our unique way. And what I'm learning is the more I tap into that, it allows me to be a better what. That's so good. So babe, the more I become the who I want to be, it allows me to be a better husband. It allows me to be a better father, a better employee, employer. It allows me to be a better human being. Yeah. And I think for us, we get so caught up in the what. Yeah. And, in the what. But the what, like I said, I never, I'll just leave it there. So for me, that's the question, is the change is the who I want to be. And so I guess I answered that. Yeah. I want to be a loved, whole child of God. That's beautiful. I love that. That's who I want to be. I love that. Yeah. So when I was thinking about that question, and I shared a post earlier on my page, on one of my pages, but I was thinking of like, who do I want to be in my marriage? Like, what kind of wife do I want to be to you? Am I being the woman that I desire to be on a daily basis? Right. And I know these are like loaded questions that are, because we're all evolving and growing, or at least that's the goal for most of us, to be evolving and growing. And the other one that came to mind was, how do you
let go of who you once were to protect yourself, because many of us, I won't say 100%, but I will say a very large percentage of us become someone to protect ourselves based on our experiences in life from being hurt again or disappointed or what have you. We become a version of ourselves, right? To protect ourselves. But how do you let go of who you once were to protect yourself and grow into who you desire to be?
Yeah. Are you asking me?
I am.
Oh, okay. First thing I want to say is these questions are not condemning, because I think some people could read that, am I being the man or woman that I desire to be? And when you answer that no, that could be kind of a jab or a self-deprecating, is that the right word to use? Thought process, but it's not. It's all about identifying yourself or locating yourself.
Right.
I like to use this example all the time of, GPS is a great tool and it's fabulous that your phone can now take you pretty much anywhere in the world, no matter where you are. You never have to be lost again. But the only way for it to get you to your destination, you have to first tell it where you are right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's how growth works. You have to identify where you are right now. Yeah. So use these questions. This is your jumping off point. And then, what was the thing you wanted me?
It's the last question. So,
How
do you let go of who you were to protect yourself and grow into the person that you actually desire to be?
Okay, so I had to, for me, Glenn Coleman.
And I wanted to hear this from you from a man's perspective.
Yeah.
Because I'd be wanting to hear y'all talk more, but go ahead.
I'm going to say this. You know what I mean? Then this is my journey. Being who I am and where I come from, how I grew up. Most of you know me. I mean, I am a church kid. I'm a church kid. I mean, the truest meaning of that word, that's who I am. And for me, growing up in that environment, I often adapted or did the who I became was not based on the who I mentioned earlier. It was more based on the approval of those I was wanting to be approved of.
Yeah.
And so it made me do things, say things, act ways that they were not bad, but they were not my true my true authentic
that
self.
Authentic you.
And so one of the things that really made me wake up to this fact, and because it was a sort of protection, it was I felt safe, and being that person got me certain access. It got me financial gain because of who I was and the way I was and what I did. People would pay me for that to come and do what I did. But one of the things that really got me to wake up was that when I wasn't in those environments, and when I became almost not disgusted with myself, but I just wasn't. A lot of times I would have to go back and I would analyze myself all the time. And like, wait, why'd you say that like that? Or you should have said it like this, or you shouldn't have did it, should have did it like this, or And what I realized was the people that I was trying to be that for, and I'm not even blaming those people because they were just doing what they were doing. That was on me. But what I realized that they were living their lives and they were, I guess they're happy and going on with their lives. And here I am, the one that's analyzing and going over and I'm the one that's, I'm editing myself and I'm unhappy. So I'm like, well, that's not fair. So, and again, I think a lot of times it's not even that those people are requiring that from us. I think in my mind, I thought that's what I had to do. And so that's why I talk a lot about this, especially in church. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to make this just, about church, but this is my story.
Yeah.
I think that's why when you are in these circles, everybody prays the same. Everybody has the same lingo. Everybody dresses the same.
Has the same everybody has to the environment.
Yes. I was listening to a message on YouTube the other day in the audience. I'm like, man, I almost can tell you from the responses, I could almost tell you that how that person looks because I've met that person, even though I've never met that person, I've met that person before in church. You got what I'm saying? And so we've lost in that realm. We've lost our true identity. We've lost our potency, and we've lost the very thing that God has called us to be, the salt of the earth. We've lost our taste.
Come on now.
Oh man, I'm preaching good, right? Good, sir. We've lost our taste, and so we haven't seasoned the world the way we should, because it's like Tanya has this spice cabinet. And I tell you, there's all kind of stuff in there, and it just depends on what she's trying to make, and the flavor she's trying to pull out as to what she uses. So I said all that to say this is that I think the first thing that you have to do is to be honest with yourself and make a choice to say, I know this is quote unquote protecting me, but am I happy? And at the end of the day, what do I want? And identify that and know that maybe what you want, you're going to have to leave some of what you are behind and become who you need to be.
That's so good. That's so good. So right no, like you don't have to stop. It was so good and profound in the way that because we have this great desire to belong, and I believe God put that there because there's a longing for him. And so we have a desire to belong that goes unfulfilled unless we are truly operating authentically in him. So even in our religious circles, that belonging piece, yes, we want to belong and we need community, yes. But if I don't truly feel that I belong in the Father, there is still this sense of being lost and needing to adapt and edit who we are to fit in the environment around us when we truly shouldn't have to do that. Like those communities should be full of different personalities and, all of this, because it's the beauty of it. When I think about in my mind and I picture heaven and what God created, there is such a uniqueness. There's such a broad spectrum of beauty and colors that we probably have never seen before. And, all of these different things, nothing's really boxed in. In my mind's eye, it's free and airy and you know what I mean? And so you said that, if you really want to be happy, and when you said that, the word that came to me is if you really want to be at peace.
Yes, that's definitely a better word than
not saying that your word was wrong, but that's just the word that came to me was if you really want to be at peace, you have to operate because that's what authentically.
That's what it is, and for me, that's what it was. It was just like a I don't have to. I don't have to. If I don't really, if I'm not feeling that, then I don't have to.
And so when you were talking, and so I'm like on my phone. I'm not on my phone to be on my phone. I'm looking up.
Go ahead.
Something. This came to me. And do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes so that you may prove for yourselves what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you.
For you. And I love that version.
That's Romans 12:2, the Amplified
Bible. I love the way the Amplified Bible says "for you," because there is nothing cookie cutter about you. You know, I was listening to another podcast earlier.
Nothing cookie cutter about
and they were talking about raising kids. And they were like, you know, you can't look at what I do with my kids and tell me I'm a bad parent.
Sure.
I mean, of course, there's some things that, that's
right. They cross the line and barriers.
But if you're doing, you know what I'm saying? But because my kids are not your kids. So you can't look at me and say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, you don't know me. And this is how I know me and my girls, and I guess maybe I don't have any boys, so maybe that's what it is. But, you know, I joke and pick with them, you know, like with Bethany. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I call her because I don't want you to call her that because that's what I call her. But I call her that. And Tanya's like, oh, don't say that. But she knows, Bethany knows. That's how we, and then, you know, the same thing with Bailey. You know, I'll pick on her about something. I'll call her something. But she knows that that's just how we relate. So my point is it's not cookie cutter. And so even when becoming the who, like I said, we all are called to become children of God, but even in that, we're all becoming that in our own way.
Yes.
Or let me not say that. We're all becoming that in His
own way, but it is authentic and specific. God is specific about you. Yeah. So thank you for answering that question. You know, I think growing and evolving and developing is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process.
Absolutely.
And getting to know yourself, it takes work for many people. Again, I don't say everyone, but for many people, it takes a lot of work to really get to know who they are. And who God is transforming and calling them to be. We take a lot of action steps. We place a lot of labels and titles on ourselves, but that still does not mean that is who we are. You know, that when you strip all of that away, you strip all of the labels, all of the titles, all of the hair, the makeup, the cars, the houses, the things away, who are you? At the end of the day. So I placed that question out to you guys, like, who do you want to be, or who are you becoming? One of my favorite quotes is by Michelle, is from Michelle Obama, and it's from her book. And I think probably in one of her speeches, she said this. She says, for me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey doesn't end. It doesn't end. Yeah. It's an ongoing journey. Like, we are forever evolving and changing and growing, but you get to decide, like, who do I want to be? Like, God put things on the inside of us, but He also said, I place before you life and death. He says to choose life, but you don't have to. You know, He gives you a choice. So who you become, you choose. You get to choose. He's not going to make you do anything. It isn't going to happen automatically. I think that's the part that we sometimes miss because, you know, it takes work to do that stuff. So anyway, that is the question that I wanted to bring to the table, the conversation that I wanted to have with you today. Like, y'all, think about, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be to your spouse? Who do you want to be to your children? When your days on this earth are done, what will your children stand up and say about you?
I always said, you know me, I'm a clown, but I always said in my obituary, when I pass and go on to be with the Lord, I want my obituary to say, you know. You don't need to do all that. You know.
But what memories will they have?
Yeah.
You know, who will they have known you as? Because honestly, those who live with you and who do life with you, you know, you can show us any and everything out here, you know, but they know you.
Yeah.
So who do you want to be to them, to yourself, and then to them first?
Yeah.
So sit with God on that one.
That's good, baby. That's good.
Thank you guys for listening and for watching and for commenting in the chat. I may try to hang out in the chat a little bit tomorrow when we post the podcast to talk.
Yeah, we need to do a better job at that.
Yes.
Yeah, being in them chats.
Yes, get in the chats. Yeah. Get in the chat. So tell the people.
So if you are watching this, you could also listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, pretty much everywhere podcasts are distributed. That's the word I was looking for. That's the word, yes. I need to check Audible. I think we're supposed to be getting onto Audible. I need to check that.
Okay, cool.
So remind me to check that. So you can always find us on those places. Also, you can follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Marriage Matters 0526. Please follow, share, subscribe, all of the things, comment. If you have questions or stuff that you want us to talk about on the podcast, please let us know. Reach out to us. And as always, you will remain anonymous. We're not going to put your business out there. Unless you want us to. Maybe even if you have something that you want to come on the podcast, we are now gearing up to start taking on more guests. We want to have more guests on the podcast. So if you think that you have something that'll be helpful to others, if you've walked through something in your life that maybe would benefit others hearing your story, let us know. We'd love to have you on. And last thing I want to mention is that if you need more help beyond what you're getting here on the podcast, if you need someone to talk to, if you need counseling, if you need coaching, I would encourage you to go to www.wholelifecoachingandcounseling.com.
That's whole with a W.
Yep, whole with a W. It's right down here, here, I think. Somewhere. But anyway, it's wholelifecoachingandcounseling.com. You can go on there and book your first 15-minute consultation for free. So come hang out with us, come visit with us, and we'll see. Have a conversation. Yes. Come. Maybe you need some help walking through some of these questions.
Yeah, so, for sure. That is probably some of my favorite conversations to have.
Yeah. So that's all we have for you this week. Hopefully you got something out of that. Until next week, this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that your
marriage matters.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.